flip phone.
Wait about a minute.
7 o'clock, recorder's running.
Time to start.
Keep the language down. You're being recorded.
Jack seems to be
Martin not
leading
showing
us
up
this
again.
show.
She told me she was coming.
I wrote a check.
Oh, you are.
Someone emailed me.
We're just waiting. Some people are checking in.
Did you get a ticket?
No.
2 tickets?
I hope it's okay, Mary. We started without you.
All right.
Actually, let's don't slow her down. She's probably giving out some money.
Should have done that yesterday. It's tax deductible. It's declared. I mean, last year.
Shouldn't have.
Yeah, I just used Outlook and didn't
I
mail
don't have a
Is Mike
pen.
state treasurer?
Maybe
Mark,
it.
are
Extra 10? Oh, 10.
she's taking notes.
You may have mine.
you? Nobody about yours.
Yeah.
Of course, you know I didn't know what I was doing before. Now I have
95,
to.
This is a paperless office.
Okay, I'll get another Tuesday.
All right. Well, but we will start without Mary.
No, am I supposed to check?
So the meeting comes to order. All right, so we got today's presentation. Welcome to our meeting for our today's presentation. Dale is going to be our presenter, and we're going to cover on Chrome and some little secrets
And Firefox.
and Firefox.
How to use them.
What it
How to
is.
use them.
How to install them.
And they have some additional features, so we'll see if we can find some.
Well, I don't do secret stuff. Most people don't use it unless they're a hacker.
And nevertheless, hopefully you find the information useful. So, without further ado, Dale, you have the floor.
Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me okay. I didn't set the microphone and stuff up. Most people have never complained about not being able to hear me, or the opposite. So, tonight's presentation is going to be about, anybody read the notes that they got? Chrome and Firefox. All right. So, if you don't have Chrome or Firefox, and for some reason you don't want to use Internet Explorer, and there's many reasons probably not to use Internet Explorer, it is very easy to get Google Chrome or Firefox. So let's start with Chrome. Now, it's real hard to find it. If you type Google Chrome, especially if you do this in Google, it really finds it quickly for you. Very first choice, and it, not only is the first choice, it's an ad by Google. So apparently Google's paying themselves to put their own ad on their own search results.
I doubt it.
But if you're like me, and I hate to be contributing to any large corporation with my mouse clicks, I bypass the ad and I go to the second entry, which they don't get paid for. So, fight the man. No. Okay, so you'll notice Google browser or Chrome browser - Google. You can click here, or even right here, you can go directly to the download. Either one will work. I usually just start with the first one. And lo and behold, the very first thing, you can't miss it. And it tells you Windows 8, Windows 7, Vista, and XP. Sorry, Windows 2098 users, you can't use Chrome. And we don't want you to use Chrome because we don't want Windows 98 or Windows 2000 on the internet. Because they are nothing more than launching pads for Trojans and viruses. So, first thing is going to pop up. Terms of service. You can read this if you would like. I don't, because I know there's nothing I can do to change it. It's written by a lawyer, and basically what it says, using this, you give up all rights to blame us for anything goes wrong. So, but before you download, slow down, John. Before you download, check for things like this. I do not want to set it as my default browser at the moment. I uncheck that. And then you may or may not want to become part of their beta testing team by saying, yeah, you know, help me automatically send stuff to Google so they can make Google Chrome better. I usually don't check that. You know, I figure out I'm too casual of a user to give them much useful information. Click accept and install. And you'll notice it's just simply downloading the installer. And it even gives you like progress right along here. Down on the website, it's kind of a web page that's in the background, it's kind of giving you progress. At home, this downloads and installs in about 22 seconds. Here it's going to be a little slower because we're Wi-Fi down to, we're double Wi-Fi in here. So it's going to take a little bit longer. But,
Question?
yes. Question?
Are you using Windows 7 or 8 here?
This is Windows 7. Okay, so it's saying something about your profile could not be opened correctly. Now that's most likely because I used to have Google Chrome on this computer and I uninstalled it and told it to take all the settings with it. So basically it's probably found a vestige of that previous install and thought it had a profile, but now it realized you can't use it. And all a profile is just the way you customize the browser. So it's saying some features may be unavailable. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, do you see anything happening at the moment?
I looked for the light flashing on the computer.
Whenever you download something and install it, you have to always be aware that a browser is filling the screen. Maybe the program that's executing right now is behind the browser window. So let's minimize it. Ah! What do you know? Chrome is already loaded. But it came up behind Internet Explorer because Internet Explorer was on top. A lot of people have told me, well, I downloaded this and I couldn't find it. Well, look. You see the taskbar along the bottom? It's there for a purpose. Some guy at Microsoft probably made $1 million on that thing. And it's helpful because you'll notice I have Internet Explorer operating here and I have Chrome operating there. So if you don't see something going on the screen, look at your taskbar to see if anything is running. So at this point, I can do away with Internet Explorer, so I'm going to close it. This is Google Chrome. It's installed. And you notice the first thing it wants to do, it wants me to enter an email address and a password. Now, why would it do that?
Wants to keep track of you.
No. Believe it or not, that's not really it. Although they do keep track of you, I'll say that for them. They know everything you do. I think they watch you when you go to the bathroom. I'm not sure. So, but Google has, like Firefox does, a built-in feature that will synchronize a browser from your home computer to your laptop, to your tablet, so that they all share the exact same tabs, favorites, bookmarks, whatever you want to call them, and settings. So if you're interested in that, you can use that. Now,
I'll set it up on 4 different machines and it all appears 4 different ways.
well, you have to set up the sync.
Okay.
If you don't set up the sync, it doesn't sync. Plus, the synchronization process is god-awful slow. So, why do you suppose it's slow? Any hints? There's trillions of Google users out there. How many people here have a Gmail account? Do you think Google servers are just a bit busy? So, yes, it works, it's just slow. Yes?
How large of, do you have any idea how large of like a data warehouse or facility Google has?
They have multiples around the world. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you install it, you'll notice it put a shortcut right down here on my taskbar. You'll notice I have nothing on my desktop. but I do have the desktop toolbar operating right down here. So my traditional desktop is here. So Google Chrome is also on my desktop, but I just don't use a desktop. If I want to start a program, I go to the Start button or I use the taskbar. Why bother with a bunch of icons on the desktop that you never see anyhow because they're behind whatever window you're using? I don't even use artwork like this. My screen normally on this computer is jet black. Nothing. Zip. Zero. But I did this so we could focus tonight. We needed something to focus the projector with. Okay. So I've installed Chrome. Now I'm going to launch it again. And it's going to ask if you want to make it your default browser. Remember the thing I unchecked at the beginning? Well, I do not want it to be my default browser, so I'm going to say don't ask again. It will never bug me again unless I tell it to. At this point, you would think, well, I can't do anything because it wants me to sign in. Well, that's not true.
You can skip for now.
Say what?
Skip for now.
Yeah, you can skip it. I was going to tell you, we got to get there. And I'm going to show you how to set up sync later. So we're going to skip this. And as you might not be surprised to recognize, the first page is sort of bland, which is most of Google pages. They're very minimalistic. Let me go ahead and maximize it. Looks like we're losing a little bit. I gotta bring that back a little bit. So, you got this fancy new browser. What do you do with it? Well, it's just a regular browser. But if you want to do some setup and have things ready to go your way, they don't use a gear. They use this little funny thing over here. So you click on that. And here's all your, you can start a new tab, you can open a new window. Chrome has something called an incognito window. And what that does, for folks like Jack and John who visit strange websites, it does not keep track of where you've been and what you've been doing. You are incognito when you open that window. But I don't need to use it because I don't go there. Bookmarks, they don't call them favorites, they call them bookmarks. And of course you have all kinds of other commands, but the thing you're looking for when you first start up Google Chrome, you want to get it set your way, come to Settings. And you'll notice Settings is a standard tab. And of course, here's Sign into Chrome, which we're not going to do yet. On Startup, you can have it open a new tab every time it starts, or you can say Continue where I left off. That's kind of handy if you do lots of surfing and you get interrupted. If you've got it set this way, when you start it again, it goes right back to where you were. But most people come down here and click this one. This is setting your home pages. Okay? Now, it doesn't call it a home page here, does it? But that's what it is. So if you're going to say, well, I always want this to open to a specific website, you have to enter the URL, or you can say use current pages. Well, I'm not going to do that because the current page is the settings page. But you might want to do that. There are some people that might want to open in the settings page, make some adjustments, and then go to work. You've got themes that Google makes available to you. Another thing you've got to look at is, do I want to see the home button? Everybody here is used to seeing a home button in Internet Explorer, right? So you turn that on. Always show the bookmarks bar. That's a good idea in Google Chrome because you'll notice there's a lack of menus. So this way your bookmarks are always running along the top. You have a search set up here. You can decide, I want to use Yahoo's search engine instead of Google's. Whatever search engine you want. And all that means is when you type something in the address bar, it uses this service to do the searching. So I'm going to leave it Google because Google seems to work fine for me. Enable instant for faster searching. I don't like the way that works. It sort of gets in my way. it starts making suggestions, and it tries to index lots of stuff that you're doing. Plus, you may notice this statement right here. Your input on, they call that address bar, they call it the omnibox, because you do everything from the same box. But you notice it says omnibox input may be logged. In other words, tracked. So if you don't check this, you know, you're not going to improve your speed of finding things, but it doesn't improve it enough to make it worth it, I don't think. Users. You are currently the only Chrome user. I've never used this because I'm the only one who uses a computer. From what I've read and tried to understand, you can set up different users to use Chrome in the same Windows login account. And then one user can launch Chrome for themselves and have their own settings. You can launch Chrome for yourself and have your settings. I have not used it and I haven't really figured out how it works, other than it separates two users and all their settings. Now, again, if I did want to make this my default browser, I could come here and click it. One thing a lot of people miss is right here. Advanced settings. So, what do you suppose that means? Everybody see it right there? Well, you won't know till you click it. And if you don't click it, you're going to miss some of the things you can set up in Google Chrome. So I'm going to click it. Now I got privacy. I got content settings. You can go into here and you can, to your heart's content, be as paranoid as you want. You can go in here and say block sites from setting any data. That's cookies, by the way. Block third-party cookies and site data. You can fine-tune this thing to the point that most paranoids would be very happy. I don't bother. Because, quite frankly, they're not really tracking me. They're just tracking what my computer visits throughout a normal day. They don't know who I am. Images. You can say, all right, show all images, or you can say, don't show any images. So if you visit a website that has pictures, you won't see them until you click on them. Some people with kids like that in case of offensive images come up. So they set this so they, but the kids figure out how to turn it off right away anyhow. So manage exceptions means you can fine-tune the kinds of images. For example, you can put in, and when they say host name pattern, that's the website you're talking about. So you can say, allow or block from MSN or Google. You can even block Google themselves if you want. But from what I have found, there's no reason to plug anything in here unless you've got small kids or something where you need to fine-tune it. And then you might want to look at something like an add-on package that would protect the whole computer. JavaScript. Anybody know what JavaScript is?
Yeah, that's what shows pictures and stuff.
Anybody care?
So,
If you don't, if you come in here and say do not allow any site to run JavaScript, almost half the websites will quit working.
Yeah.
So you got to let it run if you want to see things. Java, every now and then, a hacker figures out a way to break into systems through Java. That's why you need antivirus and good protection on your computer. Handlers. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything come up on this. I've never seen a website tell me they're changing my protocols. But what that means is certain websites might tell your computer that they are the default website for port such and such. Or trying to think of the different protocols. I can't think of the acronyms off the top of my head right now for some reason. But basically, if you leave it the way it is, it won't cause you any trouble. If you want to see some of the things that can go wrong, check it. Check the do not, and then see which websites don't work right. Then come back in here and add them to the acceptable side, or just leave it on all the time. Plugins. If you have any plugins connected or installed in Chrome, this will allow them to run automatically. If you say, well, I have plugins, but I want to choose when I allow them to run, set that right there. Click to play. In other words, for example, Flash Player, Silverlight, anything that plays videos or animations, those can be plugins. And if you want to control how they operate, you can click the center. Or if you never want any animations or any kind of special plugins to ever work, you say block all. Automatic is just fine. If you want to disable individual plugins, you can. You can click here. You notice I've already got plugins here and I just installed it. It comes with plugins. And I haven't found any reason to disable any of these, ever. But maybe you might find one. Pop-ups. I always say do not allow. However, you have to remember some websites you visit will not work properly without pop-ups.
Downloads won't work.
Well, some downloads won't. The other thing that won't work, some bank websites, you won't get the login prompt. So, but the thing is, you can leave it this way, and when a website wants to do a pop-up, it'll say, Chrome will tell you, this website's trying to run a pop-up. Then you'll have a choice to always allow pop-ups from this website. And then you only are allowing pop-ups from your bank website or whatever website that needs them. So I've never, played with the exceptions. You can do it on the fly as you need. And Chrome is very good about making sure only the things you allow pop up. Okay, notifications. Now, a desktop notification, anybody know what that means?
There's an advice about something on a website?
You would think it's a pop-up, but it pops up, so to speak, in the desktop. So it almost looks like you didn't want it, because there's, they can write code that can do anything that they want on your end. The notification code would be like a little thing popping up telling you, this is not going to work, or you got to do this, things like that. I haven't run across, leaving it set exactly where it is, I haven't run across anything that I thought was a problem. And so far, I don't know if I've seen notifications or not, because I've seen little things pop up that I think fit this category, but it's like a website saying you need this plugin, this player to run this video, or something like that. But you can turn them completely off, and then of course sit there and guess why you're not seeing the video. Full screen.
You skipped the one above notifications.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Oh, location. Yeah, you're right. I missed that one. Location. If a website attempts to determine your physical location by checking your IP address and triangulating your location, by having it set here to ask me when, you'll know if a website is attempting to determine your location. There's no real good reason to go to the do not side, because when you say ask me, it's going to pop up a box saying, do you want this website to track your location? It's handy if you're using a mapping program, because if they can't track your location, they really can't map very well for you. A program like Gas Buddy that tells you local gas station prices. It has to track you to figure out what's nearby. Some websites that you shop at do the same thing, and then they pop up and say, here's the closest store.
Yeah, cars,
Pardon?
like automobiles.
Yeah, or whatever. So letting it stay at the normal setting works fine. Okay, so full screen. I haven't figured out exactly what that does, other than some websites, when they launch a new web page, attempt to launch it at full screen. So I think what this is intended. I haven't found a good description of it. I think this is intended so you could plug in websites in there that will deny them the ability to force you to go full screen. I haven't hit a website yet that makes it go full screen, so I don't know what the results would be if I hit one that does. So that's why I've never added any exceptions to it. Mouse cursor. Did you know some websites can disable your mouse cursor? Yes, they can. So, you can say, ask me again, and then you'll know which websites are attempting to take control of your computer. Actually, they're just trying to control your cursor. That doesn't mean they're going to click on something for you. Usually it means they're changing the shape of the cursor. Web intents. This is another one I've read their description. I still am not sure what it does. But it's got to do with some of the Google applications, Google Docs and things like that, and other applications that can run across a browser. But I just leave it the way it is. I've never run into any problems, but I don't know, I don't have a good handle on what that is. And one of the problems, you can't get a real good handle on browsers like Chrome and Firefox, even Internet Explorer sometimes, is how often they change them. So, sometimes you have to learn it, get a new learning curve going every 6 months, because they change things. Flash camera and microphone. If your computer has a camera or a microphone, some websites can control them. So you notice the only two choices you have here is ask or block. You don't even have Google's protecting you in that there's no wide open web. So leave it at ask, and then you'll know if a website's trying to access your camera or your microphone. Media. And again, this is the same as the camera and microphone. They just call it media. I don't know why they have two. To me, one would have been good enough. And then unsandbox plug-in access. Anybody know what a sandbox is in computer relation? Jack does. Joe does. A sandbox means it's run in a separate area so it can't mess up the rest of the program's operating. So, what you're doing is saying, ask me when a site wants to use a plugin to access my computer. In other words, anybody ever here have their computer and have a tech support person remotely control your computer?
Yeah.
That is an example of a plugin accessing your computer, if it runs from a browser window. If it's another program, then it's not the same. But that means within some web browsers, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, there are plugins that will allow somebody else to run your computer if you set it up so they can do it. So, any questions on the settings? The only thing I can tell you is just dig through every one of them. The top one, like I say, the cookies at the top, I just leave it here and periodically delete cookies. Cookies are not bad. They could be bad if you gave a website too much personal information and then they related your computer to their website and then you gave them personal information. But guess what? If you don't allow cookies, you can't shop on most websites. You can't bank on most websites. So you either allow them or you just don't do half of what you can do on the internet. Okay, so we found that at the bottom of this page, the settings page, you've got to go ahead and check the advanced settings. You can hide them again when you're done. I just leave them open. On the left side of this setup page, you see where it says extensions. Let me get back to the top here. Extensions are like plugins, but you'll notice there's already an extension here called Google Docs. because that's part of Google's package. That means from this web browser you can execute the Google Docs application and work on your documents that are stored up on Google. There are more extensions. I usually don't go looking for them unless I hit something that says I need an extension to do that job. Then I'll get it. But so far, I think this is the only one I've ever run across that I need. But if you click on this, you will see all kinds of stuff. I mean, you notice all this junk here, right? Now, some people might not think it's junk. It's things that they're interested in, and they want to be able to do it directly from within the browser. So these things are like just additions, almost just the same as plugins to the browser. They just happen to call these extensions. I haven't found one that I needed to use yet, so I haven't used any of them. Some people that do Gmail, there's an extension that you can plug in that allows you to do Gmail offline. You can do it when you're not connected to the internet. You can't send an email or get any new mail, but you can work on your existing address book and things like that. Okay, and then you got a history. If you need to clear your history, your browsing data, you can come here and click on this thing right here. It says clear all browsing data. Now, we haven't gone very far today, have we? So there's only two things here. If you decide that you only want to remove part of your browsing data, you can say remove selected items. Does that make sense? Okay. So any questions on setting it up and getting through the setup page? I know it's a lot of stuff, but if you just go through it and read it, it won't take very long to figure out what it means. And if you have trouble understanding it, just go to Google, type in how to use Chrome, and they'll have all kinds of articles. Some of them are actually up to date. Okay.
Question,
See,
are we supposed to have done that with other browsers, I mean Bing and, or whatever?
what do you mean?
Are we supposed to have had it all gone through and,
Well, if you want to have it work exactly the way you want it to.
okay.
Most of these browsers are perfectly okay with the default settings. There's very few of these settings you need to change. You might want to change some if you're, worried about cookies. You might say, well, I'm gonna say always ask me before I let a site give me a cookie. You can do that. But I haven't found any reason to do it. But every couple months or so I delete my cookies, and the aggravating part about deleting your cookies, you gotta go back and log into every site you visit, because once you drop the cookies, it no longer recognizes you, so you gotta reestablish that relationship. Because some of my websites I have automatically sign in. I don't want to bother signing in every time. Others I don't. Okay, so using Chrome itself, as I mentioned, yes?
Does that run on Linux at all?
Yeah. Chrome is a cross-platform browser. They coded it to, I think it runs on Apple's too, right? Yeah. Okay. You notice it's offering up here to import bookmarks. But I'm not going to do that. You can do that. It'll import your favorites from Internet Explorer. So if you have Internet Explorer set up with all your favorites, you can import, and then Chrome will have them. But let's take a look at, for example, I just want to set Google as my home page. Now you see I've got a home symbol right up here. Remember I added that. That's one of the things you have to add in the settings, right there. So if I right-click on it, nothing happens. If I click on it, look what it does. It goes back to that other page, which is my home page. Google makes it a little harder to set your home page. you have to come over here, go to Settings, and remember that thing I talked about on Startup? Open a specific page, then I go to Set Pages, and use the current page. Okay? So now when I close Google and reopen it, it's going to go to the main Google page. Some web browsers, whenever you can see the home symbol, you can right-click on it and adjust your home pages. Google, you got to go to the settings. So, tabs. Anybody know what tabs are or not know what tabs are? Who does not know what tabs are? Tabs just allow you to have multiple websites open at the same time in one session. Before tabs, you had to open Chrome or open Internet Explorer multiple times to see multiple web pages back and forth. But every time you open a program, you know it eats up memory. The full program eats up more memory than just a tab. So tabs are helpful in that you can open a new tab, the symbol right here. See, when you put your mouse on it, it says New Tab. You click it, and now you can go to whatever page you want. And if you want to keep that tab, you got to go back to the settings and say, keep the current pages as my home pages. So if I wanted to go Yahoo, so I go to Yahoo. That's my next tab. If I want to keep that every time I open Chrome, I've got to go to the settings and click here and say use the current. You notice this is plural, pages. So it's going to have 2 pages. If you ever want to change these pages, you notice as you put your mouse on them, you get an X over to the right. So you can come here and drop a website and that page or that tab anytime you want. So now that I've set both Yahoo and Google, if I close Chrome and reopen it, and you notice how quickly Chrome opens? It's pretty fast. It will not always be fast because it depends on what you have as home pages. On my home computer, I have 7 pages, 7 tabs, and it opens in less than a second. It doesn't stabilize until all the pages are fully loaded. That takes about 12 seconds. You know, I got 12 seconds. I can wait. Yes?
When you close it, are you minimizing it or are you closing it?
I'm using the X. I'm closing it.
You're actually closing.
Why?
Well, I noticed the Chrome is still on the taskbar.
Well, that's because there's the Chrome launch icon is on the taskbar. It's not running. It installed itself and put itself on the taskbar. Okay.
Back up a little bit, to get rid of the tab.
This tab,
Yeah.
how did I get rid of it? I
So
clicked
that
it.
it
I
comes-
clicked its X.
When you start up, I got 2 tabs that open automatically, and I don't know where I got the second one from.
Okay, you mean when you open, you get 2 tabs, and you
Right.
want to get rid of the second one. Okay, there's the fastest way to get rid of the second one is just close the tab, go over here to the settings, come down here to where it says on startup, set pages, and say use current pages. You notice it dropped Yahoo and just went to Google. And then you click OK. And now, 1 tab. Okay? If you don't use tabs in Chrome, you're not seeing what it can do for you. Because the tabs are great. I can switch back and forth between 7 websites. And it doesn't slow my computer down a bit. Now I have.
How about memory?
It doesn't use much extra memory. A lot of it depends on the websites you're visiting, how much total memory it's going to use, but that's dynamic. It changes when you go to a different web page. So, you know. Now, so you can add as many tabs as you want. You'll notice when you add more tabs, they start getting a little smaller. So, you know, if you open too many tabs, it's hard to read the titles. But I found that you know, once you get the right number, it works fine. What you don't want to do is, you know, you don't want to just do this all day long. Okay, now I want to go to Yahoo. Oh, okay, Yahoo. I got to get to Yahoo. Now I'm at Yahoo. And now I've lost my Google, so I can't compare what I found on Yahoo to Google. You know, I can't see any reason to not use the tabs, because they give you tremendous flexibility. I mean, you know, and suppose, you know, I just put Yahoo on this page, now I'm going to put Google on this page, for this tab, and now I'm going to go back to the settings, and I'm going to say, use the current pages again. Now I've got Yahoo and Google, and this time Yahoo's first and Google's second. If you want to move them around, just drag them. Drag and drop. It's part of Windows, right? Now, what do you think is going to happen when I close and reopen? Is it going to go back to Yahoo first and Google second? How about that? Because I didn't go back and tell it to use the current pages. It remembers the order you set them in. So, you know, always get them the way you want them, left to right, and you'll have no problem. All right, let's go ahead and let me close this thing back. I'm going to change the settings. You can also drop one of your tabs here. I want to get rid of the Yahoo tab. So now I'm back to just Google. And we talked about the sync. So if you have multiple computers and you get frustrated when you're using one computer and you're trying to find a bookmark you know is on the other computer, you got to set them both up to synchronize. So you come here, you click on Sign into Chrome. Trying to remember my password.
Gotta write them down.
That's what you said.
Okay, I guessed right again. When you sign in to Chrome, here's where you set the sync settings. Sync everything is what I do. And there's another thing down here. You can say encrypt passwords as they get passed from one computer to the other, or you can encrypt all sync data. The drawback to encrypting all sync data is going to slow it way down. And then, just notice down here, you already have data that is encrypted using a different version of your Google account password. Please enter it below. My data up on the Google servers was entered when I had another password. I've changed my Google password, but what they're saying is the stuff up on the server was encrypted when you had used a different password. So I got to put that password in.
Otherwise you don't remember it.
And hope I guess right. If you're setting it up for the first time, you won't see this. Okay, so at this point, it should be synchronizing. And you notice something is happening. This is an extension that I played with for a little bit. I never did uninstall it. I don't use it. But what it does is it lets you customize your Gmail view a little bit. I didn't really like it, plus they kind of nag you for donations. So that's why that popped up. If you want to stop synchronizing this computer to your Google account, that's what the disconnect your Google account's all about. If you want to see what the advanced settings are, you click on that, and you'll notice they look pretty much like the ones we just saw when we first set it up. You can use your Google account password, you can encrypt passwords. So, now how long does it take to sync? I have no idea. I've never timed it because it is kind of slow. But, close Google, look what happens. I'm already in sync. About 30 seconds. Sometimes it's slow. Now these are the exact same tabs that are on my home computer. These bookmarks are the exact same bookmarks that are on my home computer. And I did that, like I say, 30 seconds.
Does it have sign-in scripts?
Pardon?
Does it have sign-in scripts for different sign-in places?
Google Chrome will remember passwords and usernames, you know, on websites that allow it. You know, some websites, it will never save your password to a local browser. Most banks don't do that. But for example, you'll notice I automatically signed into iGoogle. I should be signed into my Yahoo, but I'm not. Well, wait a minute, maybe now I'm not. Some websites, when it synchronizes data, the passwords don't go between computers. So you have to sign in again. Particularly websites like Yahoo, who bounce you out every 2 weeks anyhow. Yahoo will not let you remain signed in for more than 2 weeks. They'll bounce you, you got to sign in again. So whenever this synchronizes, it does not synchronize that password.
My browser remembers all those passwords for me.
Well, yeah.
Library.
Well, it will remember if you tell it to. It'll remember them. It's just that doesn't sync between computers. It did for the Google side. You'll notice it did not for Hotmail. This one doesn't have a password. This one doesn't have a password. It did not synchronize the Facebook password. And it did not synchronize this one either.
Oh, hell, I don't want it then. Well,
And you notice one undesirable effect I found, because I had this tab set up to begin with just now, it added it, it kept it, it didn't ditch it. So when it synchronizes, if you've already set something up on this end, now what will happen, it'll synchronize both ways. So instead of having 7 tabs, I've got 8. So I'll close this, then I'll go back to settings, and I'll say use current pages. And now this setting will synchronize back to my home computer. But the only reason that tab added itself is I already had it set up. So the best time to do the sync, if you have a Google account and password, as you install that Google Chrome, sign in. Remember back at the beginning where it wanted me to sign in? Had I signed in back there, I would not have had to play with that. It would have just automatically come up and synchronized. That's how the first time I installed it on the laptop, I just set the sync up on the desktop, told it to sync right off the bat on the laptop, and bang, I was done. So, any questions on the sync? And the sync is, at least if you like to keep stuff the same on all your computers, that's pretty handy. Unfortunately, it doesn't synchronize your files for you, just your browser. So any questions on Chrome?
I just got a new computer, which it has Windows 8 on it. My son-in-law came over and he said, I'm going to put this Chrome on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and now it's showing up also on my iPad. The other computers at Dell, this of course is an Apple. And I guess how do I use the same passwords or?
Well, you're mixing things.
Well,
Chrome is a browser.
oh, all right.
So are you saying he set you up with a Google
Yeah.
account?
Do I have to set up, I mean, I have Google, I think, on the other one, or maybe not.
Well, remember, Google's a company
Okay,
that has a bunch of stuff. Google, the website Google is a place on the internet. Google Chrome is a browser just like Internet Explorer.
okay.
So did he install Google Chrome?
Yes.
You're
And
sure?
then it also came on here.
It can't do that.
It can't?
No.
Well, how did that happen?
Did you let him play with your iPad?
It's a possibility. I
No,
mean,
no, you have to be specific, because are you saying you're seeing this, a Google page, or are you using the Google browser?
I don't know the difference, I guess.
Well, that's important.
Okay.
So, to find out what kind of browser you've got, if it's internet, well, I don't know what Apple uses on the iPad. What's iPad? What is there, Safari?
It's Safari.
I don't think I have Safari on there.
Well, I have Google on the iPad, too, but I seem to.
There it is, he does.
Yeah, I got Safari. But
And
it looks different in Windows than it does in Apple, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
The issue is, you gotta know, I don't know of any way for Google Chrome to propagate itself. It's not a virus. So it
Okay,
should not show up on your other equipment. But the
Okay.
Google website can if they've changed your homepage.
I honest to God don't know what I do. They buy me all this stuff and they do this and then I'm lost. What I need is somebody to come and help me at my house, and I'm happy to pay them, so I can figure out what I'm doing.
Well,
Otherwise,
that's most of us need that. But yeah,
It's so frustrating.
yes it is, especially if you've got Windows 8.
And all I wanna do, listen, all I wanna do on my computer is I just wanna write letters or a book or whatever, and I wanna play bridge internationally. I don't care about, I don't wanna talk to anybody. I'm not interested in doing anything else.
Well, the only thing I can say is find out what's on the iPad. Is it just a Google website you're visiting using the Safari browser, or is it, at the break we can take a look and see what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know of any way for Chrome to install itself on all your other computers. It just doesn't do that. Not that I know of.
I think, look, there's a Chrome symbol,
Yeah, that means somebody probably put it there.
or he must have done it.
If you put it on one, you probably put it on all.
I think he put it on the other.
If you allow relatives access to your computers, I can't tell you how sorry I am.
Well, I agree.
So anyhow,
We can do that in the break time.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Chrome. Any other questions on Chrome? Now, Wallace, you said you had some specific problems with Chrome. What are they?
Well, that was the one, I didn't know about how to get rid of that.
Oh, you mean that easy one you couldn't figure out?
I delete it every time it boots up.
Always, and that's a good lesson. Wallace is not a computer newbie. He's been around them for a while. Always look for a symbol that doesn't seem to do anything. That's probably where you go and change the settings. You know, Google used this stupid little thing right there. What is that? Everybody else uses a gear.
It's like a ladder to me.
Yeah, it looks like, I don't know what it is. Why did they use that? I can tell you why they used it.
Bars on a phone.
Lawyers. Patent and copyright infringement lawsuits drive 90% of the computer interfaces. If it weren't for those friggin' lawyers, we would all be driving Apples. No matter whether it was Windows or Linux.
They got the star and the home page the same.
Well, yeah. Now, the reason this phone is here is I've got an extension that I can synchronize stuff to my Android phone.
What's that red one there?
That's the Gmailius that popped up. That's the thing, that's the Gmail helper. So when I go to Gmail, I don't know how fast our connection is at the moment. Sometimes this connection over here is slow. I guess it's just not going to
Hey,
go there.
waiting. It's down in the corner.
Pardon?
For mail.google.
Well, it's just having trouble getting there. It could be our local connection.
Right.
Because Gmail usually pops up in about a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
So I suspect maybe we're having connectivity problems. Let me see. There's one easy way to find out.
Or
No,
dancing
it must be
too hard.
Gmail itself.
I had one other part was, I don't know why, when it boots up, it doesn't get any of the favorites, but you can go to the tab and get all the favorites.
Go to what?
The tab, tab, any tab, all our favorites appear. but on the boot up, it doesn't appear, it just has a blank part at the top.
What do you mean? When you first started?
The bookmark, yeah, when you first started, none of those appear at the top there, the favorites that you have your bookmarks.
These bookmarks?
Yeah, but if you go to tab, you click on an open tab, then they appear.
Well, the tabs have nothing to do with the bookmarks bar. Absolutely nothing. So you're saying that when you first start up, does it start in the left-hand tab?
Yeah,
What is that tab? What page is it visiting?
it just says, it just opens up to the
What website is it visiting when?
It opens up to Google Chrome.
Google, okay. Is it the standard Google website?
Yeah.
Okay. You should see this all the time.
Could be in the settings, I showed you.
Yeah, if you go into settings, you know, you've got
Show bookmark bar.
got to make sure when you go into settings, go to bookmarks, make sure it says show bookmarks bar. And, you know, you can, that's not much else you can do to their bookmark. I mean, you can go into the manager and delete and rearrange and stuff, but the bookmark bar, as far as I know, is going to stay up there. Always pay attention to the tabs along the top. Whenever you you click on something and it pops up, Chrome always opens things in an extra tab. The settings opens in an extra tab. So always make sure you notice that and don't just leave it there and go flying doing other things and then wonder why it's there. So if I go to settings, it opens a separate tab. Everything that Google does is done, as far as I know, in HTML. So, any other questions? Any other problems?
Now, when you shut this down, does it close all the tabs automatically, or you have to tell it?
If you have already told it to stop bugging me and just shut down, it does it. But as far as I know, I haven't found the setting where you can turn it back on.
My browser's closed all the tabs.
Yeah, initially it'll ask you, do you want to close all the tabs?
Okay.
But the first time it asked me that, way back when, I just turned that off. And now it no longer asks me, and because I'm synchronizing, it probably had I not synchronized, it would have, you know. But, so any other questions on Chrome? So it's pretty easy to use. I like it. I use it all the time.
It's real fast.
Oh, one problem that occurred recently, you know, when you visit a link, you know, let's say I click on this link right here. Okay? And then when I go back, you notice the link is still blue, but if you were able to compare it, it's a slightly different color. I can see it even better over here. Now let me find, I got to sign into Yahoo to see it even better. Now you see, it remembered my password here from the other computer, but it did not check the keep me signed in box for me. So now I can just go ahead and sign in. Ah, doesn't like that. And here's another one that I've changed passwords recently because of some unusual activity noticed floating around. So I changed my passwords. Now it should let me sign. Okay. So, I click on, let's say, this thing right here, right in the middle. I go out, I visit a website, and then I come back. See how that's a different color? It's no longer bold. That was broken for about 2.5 months on Chrome. When they issued a new update, somehow they broke it. Took them 2.5 months to figure out what was wrong. And they figured it out. But, you know, I thought I was going crazy there one night. I'm like, I know I visited that website. Why is it not, you know?
Sometimes they remember, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Well, normally it remembers. It's pretty good. But every now and then it doesn't. So any other questions? Okay. Do we want to take a break and then do Firefox? We'll take 10 minutes? We're gonna do a drawing later for books, so you guys can pick up tickets from Dennis for drawings. Yes, Mary?
I don't know what I brought, but I think a lot of it's telephone oriented, so if anybody is.
Oh, some free stuff, huh?
Any of that stuff.
How you been doing?
Some freebies. Chromas.
I appreciate it.
The only way you can do it is with different browsers.
Mark would know.
I don't have the database. But you don't have it, he doesn't have it.
Well, what you do is you have Internet Explorer for one of your Gmail accounts. Firefox for their
I
Gmail.
would think I had, but if you check it, I hadn't. Yeah, your head's there behind. And what, I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, I just, I had the same problem because Micro has a Gmail account, I have a Gmail account.
Yeah. Yep, you're listed here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, excellent. Yeah. No, they don't really have browsers, they just piggyback on top of Internet Explorer. Yeah, they do. The underlying code is all Internet Explorer. It's just an add-on. Well,
Transfer the book.
so Mark, you're gonna let me know at the end of the evening who renewed, right? Yeah, that's because I sent out a tickler notice.
No, Micro is fine.
Okay, Dennis,
Oh, who would? No, you don't do it.
I paid my dues. Finally. I keep forgetting.
How fine. I mean, did you use a?
DSL and telephone.
Marker?
I think it's a high pass filter or low pass filter. One of the two, yeah. If you have both, that you but I don't think they use them anymore.
Not too much. Depends on what kind of system you have.
I got too many cables. I got too many of these at home too.
Oh. I'll mention that for it.
Not interested in any of it.
Without those things. Bunch of junk, I think.
It looks like all good stuff.
Well, you gotta need it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Yeah. You get two lines out of one.
How do I keep the,
Well, I'll just take it all home
Well,
phone line, I think. So you put this into the one on the wall and then you can do
That's for two phone lines or for?
no, not lines, just phones.
phones, just, it's not for
the issue is use what you like.
two different lines, it's for
And
two different
and
phones
explore
on
what
the
you
same
got.
line.
On the
Instead
same
of saying,
line.
I didn't know it could do that.
Yeah.
There's one that looks like that, I think,
I
for
mean,
two
explore
phones.
what program you're
Oh,
using.
that-
so
that's
you know
not
what
two
to do.
It'll say
lines.
line 1 and 2 and 1 and 4, or
Firefox
something
has
like
sync
that,
built
1 and 2.
You know that?
show the whole.
Is that what, no, this isn't, that's not what this is.
It's got the same kind of sync
Oh, that's
process.
a well
Yeah.
filtered.
Easy to use,
Shut it down, come up.
synchronizes between computers with no problem.
Yeah, it'll say L1 or something
And
like
it's,
that on
you know, it's,
it. It'll say something different.
yeah, well, if you don't have a computer,
Just trying to remember.
I prefer.
My husband
take the
said,
laptop somewhere.
Take it, maybe someone
It
will want
stays,
it.
if I've changed browser, changed bookmarks on my home computer, I want them dropped from my laptop. And if it relies on this, I'll forget.
Good.
I'm taking my,
So anyhow.
all my stuff on one wall, putting it on another wall.
10, all right.
Well, if you don't need it, it's,
It's mine anyway. Huh?
what is this thing? This even has a,
It looks like a battery.
oh,
I don't know if it's a charger or.
Yeah, some things won't work in other browsers. Firefox will do some things, Chrome will do some things in Firefox. Some places you go, you gotta use the internet.
Battery eliminator.
Boy, my glad I come tonight. I'd already
Do what?
It's to replace them.
glad I came tonight. I was ready to throw that thing.
Battery. For what?
I still have a.
They got so many things nowadays.
From when Google got hacked, remember, several months ago?
Yeah, it's
Google didn't get attacked.
The news media said it did. Well, anyway.
The only thing that gets attacked are computers.
And I was using Outlook Express.
Well, Outlook Express is outdated.
So now I got Outlook.
Oh, you went out and bought Outlook?
Yeah. There is the way I got too goofed up on Outlook Express is on the end.
There's a lot, I think, in TV's just not worth watching.
And you can't delete it. Don't be afraid of it. Why can't you delete it?
Word.
You should be able to.
So I took it into Micro Center and they said that
They tell you to get rid of Outlook Express?
oh, I did one some time ago. I'm using it.
Basic program.
But I think it's still affected my,
It was declared brain dead in 2008.
contacts. It affected my contacts. Then I get contacts, double.
You can use some of that stuff,
I don't know why.
Baby.
So what I gotta do,
whatever that is.
Different.
take all my downloads,
Battery eliminator
install it on this computer that I bought.
audio
It hasn't been out of the box in over a month.
Still have the
Because it's very
trusty
I don't wanna import
exercise.
anything that's in the old computer.
Just make sure your new computer has a good antivirus on it.
Yeah, I
Set it up the way you want it.
I like the best.
Then install all the programs you want, and transfer your files over that you need, and off you go.
One time that I was getting Trojans every 3 minutes.
It's for a touch screen.
Stay out of gas station restaurant.
Yeah, this is 8.
That's a vast is, it stops and it stops and goes.
Well, any antivirus should stop.
But this is from Czechoslovakia. No.
They always show this.
Yes.
Look how big those
A vast, I like
icons.
it.
I don't want those big old icons.
I didn't try an
I have,
AUG, but.
I just use Microsoft Security Essentials, and it seems to work.
my accounts down here.
But there is a,
Nice and light duty.
that,
Doesn't slow the
So I think
computer down.
the avenue is to my documents, favorites, and the contacts, and I put them on an extra hard drive. Then you can get into the old
Now,
computer.
if you're now using Outlook to do your email, close Outlook and find the file that ends in .pst.
well, not many
That's,
people realize.
Outlook stores everything in the .pst file. Everything. Yes, it does.
Well, I
I've done
had
it
it
for
in a
years.
micro center, he couldn't get his, it worked.
It doesn't work, it's the storage file that Outlook uses to store everything. So if you're gonna put Outlook on a new computer, and you want it to look just like all your contacts come with it, you find the .pst file, copy it, put it on the new computer, and then tell Outlook where to find it. Yes, off you go.
What was that prefix?
PST. P, Personal Storage Transfer.
Not many people realize. that
And it's a standard tab Microsoft has used in Outlook since Outlook 95. The newer versions of Outlook still use the PST, they've just modified the way they handle it. So, Windows 8, Outlook 2002, you had a finite limit of, I think, 2 gigabyte size. In Outlook 2010,
That's what they show.
size
Every time you
was,
look at Windows 8.
I think someone showed 7 terabytes.
When I was starting to screw around with it, all I did was hit.
Of course, you got a PST that large, your computer would be so slow you wouldn't be able to do it.
And then-
At one time, people would run, they weren't deleting stuff,
What
they
we're
were just filling it up. Yeah, and then the thing would stop working. Because the way they designed it, it didn't warn you when you're getting close to limit, it just quit.
Mine won't change.
And people panicked because they couldn't get their stuff.
So anyway, I got a new Dell sitting in the box for a whole month. And I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I got to find some.
But if you want to write,
8, I think it's just an interface for the
write
touch screen.
program,
But I'm gonna talk about it next
Which
month.
bank?
I'm still learning.
How do you what?
I told them to Google the information.
how to turn Windows off.
I didn't know how to turn.
Oh, Windows 8? Well, Jack can tell you.
Yeah, but.
Press the
Yeah,
start
thanks,
button.
Jack.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
How to shut Windows 8 down.
How do I shut Windows 8 down?
There's a little.
Well, I don't know what part
I
of
brought it
Windows
up.
8 you're in.
Yeah.
Just the computer.
And
just
with the
close it.
iPad.
All that
Then
for.
open the specific
Well,
page.
therefore.
Oh, I know what you're saying, yeah. You don't know how to.
I
You gotta-
I
Go on
have
that.
to turn.
Hold on a second. I'll see what you.
You have to.
Later
Hold
on.
on. You're in this screen.
Well, hold on just a minute.
You're in this screen. You don't know how to shut it off.
I just got that, yeah.
You gotta touch
Okay,
it.
Start pages.
You're in this screen, right?
Yeah?
If you come over here and slide down this side.
Now close
Okay,
it.
tell me what it says, cause I'm not
Okay.
seeing too well
Now,
here.
here's my mouse.
Oh, we're gonna have to get started.
I don't know, something's running. Just come over to the
All right,
top
you guys.
corner and drag down.
I'm going to start while Jack and Pat are talking.
And hit start. Go ahead. For settings, rather.
So let's say you want Firefox. You don't like Chrome for some reason.
Oh, I think you could hit F4.
So you launch Internet Explorer and just type in Firefox. Mozilla Firefox 18. Don't take the first one because it's an ad. Let's don't give them guys any money.
If it's colored in pink or brown or
Yeah,
whatever
it's
that
got
is.
that funny stuff.
Stay
Click the
away
second
from
one. And there it is. Download. Version 18, whatever. This is for Windows. If I wasn't using Windows, it would tell me, it determines what you're running. It knows what program, what computer you're operating. So we download it. And you'll notice there's some stuff down here that popped up. And it's telling me I'm going to get a message asking me what to do. I'm going to say run.
Run.
Run, run.
Don't walk.
I like starting.
And while it's downloading, the security scan that's being run down there is being run by Internet Explorer. And now it's finished. It decided this is a safe download. And Firefox installs a little slower than Chrome. That's because Firefox imposes higher penalties on your computer. It eats up more resources. But it's not much slower, and it's not much heavier than Chrome. And you can say standard, or you could go custom. Standard works fine for all of us. Then you say install it.
Set it to default.
And just let it go how it wants to go. You can fine tune it later. And it's finished. So, it asked me, do you want me to import stuff just like Chrome did? I'm going to say no. I'm going to go next. Now, in your case, you may want it to import your settings from Internet Explorer. If you don't have another computer already running Firefox that you're going to synchronize to.
Well, let me ask a question. What is Firefox for?
It's a web browser. It does the same thing that Internet Explorer does. It does the same thing that Chrome does. It does the same thing that Safari does.
Well, why would you run them all?
There are times when having more than one web browser is helpful. For example, you try to visit a website with Internet Explorer and it won't come up. You use Chrome and it comes up. Then you know that whoever designed that website did not design it for Internet Explorer, they designed it for Chrome.
Oh,
Or they're a bad programmer and they didn't know they were breaking the Internet Explorer side of it.
I see.
That's usually the problem.
Thank you.
Is banking pretty consistent? It used to be, we had trouble with banking.
Yeah, that's true.
Banking sites still, some of them require Internet Explorer, because that's the default standard. Okay, so here we are. It's launched, it's running. It starts out with a welcome page, and then here's what they call the Firefox start page. Down along the bottom, you'll notice you got some direct access to the tools or the settings. You can also access that same information by going up here and digging through, all the different stuff. What you will not see, you don't see a menu, do you?
No.
Classic Windows menu. Guess what? It's got one. You just right-click in the gray area and turn it on. Now, some people don't like menus. Some people don't care. Some people, I like them. You know, I like. So here's one reason I like the menus. Under Tools, I can get to Options. Without the menu, you can't find options.
What settings down below?
Well, but if I close the Start page, now how do I get there? But if I have a menu, I can go to Options. All right. So let me close this and reopen it. You notice it went ahead just like Chrome did. It put a shortcut on the taskbar. It launches, and until you change the home page, it's always going to go to the Start page. You notice along the top, they're asking, will you help us improve our stuff? And I'm going to say no. Yeah, do it yourself. All right. Again, I don't like to use their Start page, just personal preference. Some people always use it and then go to where they want to go. So let's go to Tools, let's go to Options and see how to set it up. A little bit different than Chrome, isn't it? There's no web page, it's individual menus. So the first one is General. When Firefox starts, show my home page. Well, what home page? You have to tell it. Right now it's using the Firefox Start page. But here's something else you can do. You can start on a blank page if you want. You don't have to go to any website when you start it up. Sometimes it's handy to do that so you don't have to wait for web pages to load, particularly if you're offline. Now, downloads, this section here, show the download window when downloading a file. Just like every other browser, they try to help you when you're downloading a file. Next is close it when all downloads are finished, or you can leave it open, either way. Save files to. You can tell it where to save these files to. It starts in the Downloads folder. That's a logical place to go. And then I prefer, on my setup, to say, always ask me where. That way I can save the file where I want it, not just the Downloads folder. But in general, you can leave it to the downloads because at least everybody knows where it is. Right? You all know where your download folder is, right? Right?
Sure, it's right up there on my file.
Tabs. The tab button controls how the tabs behave. So you'll notice, open new windows in a new tab instead. You know how you click on some websites and it wants to open a whole new version of your browser? With that checked, it'll just open another tab. This, remember in Google Chrome, it would not tell me I was closing multiple tabs. In Firefox, it's real easy to turn this on and off. It's right here. Chrome hides it. In fact, I haven't found it. I know how to turn it off. I can't figure out how to turn it back on. So here it says, warn me when closing multiple tabs. Warn me when opening multiple tabs might slow down Firefox. I like this feature in Firefox. What it's going to do is it's going to say to me, hey dummy, I'm pretty good, but I can't open 65 tabs very quickly. So if you start adding a whole bunch of tabs, it might tell you, hey, you keep doing this and I'm going to slow down. It's, you know, it's like a teenager, you know, when you give them extra work.
Anywhere.
Okay. Always show the tab bar. What are they talking about there? Well, believe it or not, you know, you can get rid of the tabs. I don't know how you're supposed to do it without them, but you know. Don't load tabs until selected. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means if I have 5 tabs, when it first starts up, it may not load some of those web pages till I select that tab. So that's one you might want to uncheck, so that if you have 4 or 5 tabs loading 4 or 5 websites, you may want all of them to come up and load immediately.
Wait a minute.
You guys calm down. Did Mark have to leave? Where'd Mark go?
He's still here.
No, he don't. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna do bags. Okay. This one here might come in handy. When I open a link in a new tab, switch to it immediately. I've watched people in my classes sometimes and people looking over their shoulder. They click on a link, it opens in a new tab, but the new tab doesn't, it doesn't switch them to the new tab. And then they complain about the computer not doing what they told it to do. Well, it did exactly what it's been told to do. It opened the new tab, but it didn't go there yet until you go there. So I prefer to set this on so that when I open something up, the new tab, I go to it right away. And then show tab previews in the Windows taskbar. If you have multiple tabs open, and let me cancel this for a second. When I put my mouse down here on the Windows thing, I just see one Mozilla Firefox, don't I? If I go back there and say show tab previews, now what do I have?
A whole bunch of tabs.
I have standard tab previews like most Windows programs do.
I'm liking this better and better.
So it's got some features that are a little bit handier than others, depends on what you like. Next button, content. This is where you control pop-ups, tell it to load images right away, enable JavaScript, all the stuff we did in Chrome, you can do it here. The other thing you can do here I like is you can tell it what fonts to use. If the website you're visiting doesn't override those fonts. Most websites dictate what shows up on your screen. But for those websites that allow your computer to control it, you can change things here. Languages. Well, if you don't speak English and read English, you might want to come here and tell it to show things in your language. Just keep in mind some websites don't use your language and the translation's terrible. So be prepared for what? Okay. You'll notice there are fewer choices here than Chrome gave us on images and pop-ups. You can either block them or not, and then you can manage exceptions. You can't, there's not like 3 or 4 choices. You can either block or not, and then manage the exceptions. Applications. These are the little programs, similar to the plugins we talked about with Chrome. These are programs that run to help you listen to things on websites, view things on websites, videos, animations. So if you want to see what is installed and what it's going to do, you can see, and over here you can tell it what actions to take. For example, WebCal, always ask. But you could go down here and say use Microsoft Outlook if you have it installed. Use, I don't know what this is, 30 boxes, I don't know what that is.
Adobe.
Pardon?
Adobe.
Is that what that is?
No, go to the PDF Adobe. All the way on top.
Oh, on top?
There it is. Adobe.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
so
if you click on it, it opens up the.
you can tell it what to do when you when you find a PDF on the internet. You can say just go ahead and save it. Use Reader, use Acrobat in Firefox, or always ask what to do. You have a choice. Firefox gives you a lot more refined choices than Chrome does. Firefox is a lot older than Chrome. It's been around longer. So that's one of the reasons. Okay? So that's what applications are all about. You control how they behave. I mean, you might decide, that you don't want the QuickTime, you want something else to happen when this type of file is accessed on the internet. Okay, privacy. Tell websites I do not want to be tracked. You can check it if you want, it doesn't do any good. The reason for that is the website doesn't look this far downstream. This is talking about you visit Google, and somehow Google is allowing another website to track behavior on the Google page. That other website will continue to track what you're doing, it just won't know you're doing it. Some websites, now Google doesn't operate that way, by the way. Google honors this setting. If you set that, Google will not allow third-party sites to track you if that is turned on. But most websites ignore you. So you can set it if you want. Just quit being so darn paranoid. History. Firefox will remember history. Never, or I'm going to set custom settings. Well, I chose custom settings here. Look, I can say, all right, remember this, keep cookies until they expire. I can control a lot of things now, can't I? And if I want to see what kind of cookies I've got, I can click there, and I have 2 cookies already. One from Google, one from Mozilla. Guess what? They don't hurt anything. So, in general, most people just leave it at remember history. If you want to clear your recent history, you can come right here. Or if you want to remove individual cookies, you can come here and click on that. And when using the location bar, you can have it suggest history and bookmarks, or nothing, or history or bookmarks. So most people just leave it the way it comes. Security. This is a good thing to have turned on. If a website is trying to install an add-on without telling you, you want the browser to say, hey, these guys are trying to install Flash Player or something like that. And you can do exceptions to that also. Block reported attack sites. In other words, there's a database out there of bad guys.
16,000.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of them. So what that means, if you try to visit one of those sites, Firefox will just automatically block it, as long as it's in the database of bad sites.
Doesn't give any exceptions.
Huh?
There's no
No,
exceptions.
you can't. Yeah. This one you either use their database or nobody's.
How do you look?
Block reported web forgeries. Well, if there's been websites that are reported to be forging another site, that blocks them. But they have to be in the database. Remember passwords for sites. You may not want it to do that, especially if it's a computer used by a lot of people. And Firefox does have a master password manager, right here. If you want to turn it on, then when it remembers all these passwords for all your different sites, it'll enter them for you, but you're going to have to enter the master password.
What's that save passwords block there?
Sorry?
What's that save passwords?
It's going to show you what passwords it's saved.
Okay, per each site.
Yeah, it won't tell you the actual password. It'll tell you what site and what username you used, that it remembered that password. Remember, computer can't show you your password because it's encrypted. It cannot show it to you. And Google, Yahoo, AOL, none of those guys they can't see your password either. No matter how paranoid you think you are. Advanced. This is where you get into really deep settings.
Is it sync? Or is that?
I'm going to go back to it. So, accessibility. Maybe you need, you can't use a mouse, so you need to use the keys. Search for text when I start typing. No, as you type, it searches for that on the web page. Warn me when websites try to redirect or reload the page. Some websites, you click on that website and it redirects you to another website. I don't see any reason to turn these on. It doesn't make any difference to me. Some people might want to turn them on. Browsing. Use auto scrolling. In other words, scroll kind of smoothly as you use the mouse. You can scroll up and down the page without any trouble. It doesn't chunk. Now sometimes you scroll pages and they seem to jerk. So and that's what smooth scrolling is part of also. Hardware acceleration means use your video card to improve your graphics. And check my spelling as I type. That's kind of handy. Most browsers don't check your spelling. System defaults. Always check to see if Firefox is the default browser. I uncheck that because I don't want it nagging me. It's not my default browser. Submit crash reports. Didn't we tell them we don't want to help them? Well, we're still giving them help. A crash report, anytime Firefox crashes, the next time you load it, it'll send a report off to Mozilla with some information about the crash. So you can turn that off if you want to. It doesn't hurt anything, but you know, some people don't like it.
Let's load it out.
Network. How do you connect to the internet? Well, I don't know. Just tell it to use system proxy settings. Because Windows has already taken care of that for you. You can say no proxy, but...
Auto detect.
Sorry?
There was an auto detect there.
Yeah, just use the system, because the system auto detects. So why auto detect the auto detect? Okay. Web content, cached web content. Clear now. In other words, I've cleared my cache.
Never had any cache.
Cache, every browser stores every web page you visit on your hard drive. So there's a copy of the beginning page of every website you visit. So it stores every web page you visit. When it gets to, right now, the limit is 350 megabytes. I can override that and change the cache size. There's nothing wrong with the cache. It actually speeds the web pages loading. If you clear your cache all the time, don't complain about how slow the websites load, because you're doing it, not them. And then down to bottom, tell me when a website asks to store data for offline use. That means they're going to store it in their databases on their end, in their servers, while you're not there anymore. Most of the time, I have not seen anything pop up. I leave mine checked to tell me I haven't seen it pop up. So I'm not sure what it looks like when it tells you they're doing it. Update. You can change how it updates itself. Automatically, you should tell it to warn you if it's going to disable any of your add-ons. Because when they do an update, some of your old add-ons may break. So you want to know that. Check for updates. Let me choose whether to install them. You can check that, and then it'll pop up and say, hey, there's a new version of Firefox. Would you like to install it? I just leave it on automatic. It works fine. Doesn't hurt anything. Use a background service to install updates. That means run the update in the background. Don't take over your computer to do it. And then automatically update the search engines that are part of Firefox, so they work smoothly like they're supposed to. And then encryption, you would only need to come here if you are using special certificates for your company between your different websites that you communicate between. If you want to see what certificates are already here, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of them. These are sort of like certified people, like security companies that design certificates so two websites can communicate securely with each other. Without these, you wouldn't be able to communicate with a secure connection. So, but basically, the best way is just say, when a server requests my personal certificate, ask me every time. Anybody here have a personal certificate? No. But you would if you were doing, you know, encrypted transfers between your bank and yourself, things like that. Okay, so let's talk about this sync. Oh, before I go there, how do we set home pages? So let's go to Google. Hopefully I typed it right. On this tab, let's go to Yahoo on this tab. And I'm going to close the Firefox start page. Okay, now you notice Yahoo wants me to make it my home page. I'm going to close that. I always, whenever I see the house symbol, I always right-click on it to see if it's going to let me do anything. Well, you notice it won't. So I got to go back to Tools.
Customize it.
That's the toolbar.
Oh.
Now, I got faked out the first time. So you go back to options. Remember, your home pages are here on the general tab. So if I want Yahoo and Google to always come up, I say use current pages. And then I say OK. It warns me that I'm closing all tabs. And now I reopen, and it goes Yahoo and Google. Make sense?
I like it.
Now, let's go to sync. Set up Firefox Sync, or pair a device. What's this all about? It took me a while to figure this out. I gotta get my thumb dry. It's not like Google where you can log into your account. You have to have an account, but you have to set up like an authentication key before you do this from the home computer. So I can click on Setup, and I can say I have an account. Oh, wait a minute. I can't put those numbers into my home computer. I'm not home. But down here towards the bottom, I don't have the device with me. Oh, click on that. Ah, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Let's see what password did I use. I think I used this one. Been a while. You'll notice also they store their, just like Google, they store their stuff on a server. But in Firefox, a company can set up their own system as long as they buy the sync stuff from Mozilla, or not buy it, but get it. And you can have an in-house server that synchronizes all the computers in your business to all, their Firefox works the same on every computer. Or you can just use Firefox's. Now the recovery key. Let me see if I can, I hope it's still there. Ah, there it is. Ooh, that's my secret key, don't look.
I already got it memorized.
Good. Because I'll forget it. Now wait a minute. I know I copied that. Let me get back.
Control V.
Yeah, I'm using Control V.
Oh, you V. Control A.
Control C.
Okay, you'll have to use the right.
What do you think's going on?
Preventing your copy.
Aha!
So you have to type it in.
So, yes, you have to type it in.
Can you use it? Try Control right key.
Or maybe, what is this over here, Joe? That's the viewing pane.
Right.
So did that just come up for you? That,
Well, you have to go to your home computer and
oh, I see.
cause it to pop up. What I'm trying to do is get this file to open, but it's not opening for some reason. When you open the file, then you can copy it. You can't copy it from the viewing page. Oh, here it is. It did open. Okay. Now I should be able to. Yeah, I'm going to have to cancel and start over again, aren't I? I don't know why it opened in Firefox, because Firefox is not my default browser. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It forced me to well, before I type everything in, let me see if it'll yeah. But when you're using the Windows Explorer and the little viewer window or preview window to the right, you can't copy from it. Ah! Did I type my password in wrong? Maybe I did. All right. Try again.
Is your name spelled correctly?
Yeah, I think so. Should be right. You know, hang on, maybe I used my Gmail account. I thought I used my Yahoo account, but when you've got too many email accounts, you get confused.
And why do you have different email accounts? I mean,
I don't know.
Not personally, I'm just saying why do people do that?
You know.
Do garbage ones on one account and special ones on other accounts so that you're not,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I did use my Yahoo account. I was pretty sure I used my Yahoo account. And I'm pretty sure I used my Yahoo password.
How many times does it let you screw up?
Sorry?
How many times does it let you screw up?
Well, I don't know.
well, that's not gonna work.
Well, hang on.
I can sign that.
Oh, wait.
Now they see all your passwords.
We're gonna memorize them all.
Can't even
Well.
remember my own.
Too many,
Yeah.
password on your phone.
Oh,
I have
okay.
to write mine down
I see
on
what I
that
did.
Rolodex.
I didn't use my email address, I used my username. Okay. Now it should work.
I forgot, what's the difference between the username and the email?
Username is before the @ symbol, to the left of the @ symbol.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now it's signing in and verifying what it does at this point.
Uh-oh.
Correct. What?
You got it so secured you can't get in.
Well, it worked today. When I played with it. Let me go back here and check it again. Firefox sync. Oh, yeah. Some days you gotta bring your brain with you. I didn't bring mine tonight.
I'm impressed to let you do it more than 3 times.
How do you find what, all that information that you just pulled up?
He
'Cause
entered it in.
I can never remember mine.
He created a spreadsheet.
There's an advantage
Oh,
to the internet.
I see.
Microsoft has something called SkyDrive.
Oh, okay.
And if you have a Hotmail account or any kind of Windows Live account or MSN account,
I see.
you get 5 or 7 gigabytes free storage. I've got 25 because I signed up years ago. So my SkyDrive, I have 25 gigabytes of storage. And I store stuff up there that I might need when I'm traveling. Now, this process right here is slow as you see it. Partially because I think maybe our internet connection is not as fast as it should be. But also it's validating this recovery key with my home computer. So it uses this recovery key, and I'm not sure how they, in other words, this recovery key is stored up on Mozilla's server, and it knows where my home computer is. And on a couple occasions, it never did finish verifying, but it synchronized anyhow.
If your whole computer is off,
No, it's on.
but if it's off,
If it's off, well,
Tough luck.
in theory it should work because Mozilla's got this key up on their server. And then when that other computer comes back on, it'll finish the validation process. Because what it's doing, Google Sync is actually sync. It's just any machines, your phone, anything. Firefox Sync is pairing devices with each other. Google is just, well, Google doesn't care what machine you're using. In Firefox, for some reason, they're trying to pair the machines to each other. I don't know why they do it that way. Google's works great. But it looks like it's not going to, yeah, it may not sync. But it'll do exactly the same thing Google Sync does. Once it syncs, I'll have all my tabs from my home computer, all my bookmarks, everything. It synchronizes passwords, it synchronizes all your settings, but it just, it's not as fast as it should be sometimes. Once it's set up, then whenever it synchronizes, it'll catch up with little small changes, and they'll stay in sync. I hadn't had this laptop on in a couple months, and when I turned it on Sunday, I'd made some changes on my home version before this meeting.
you were putting in your thumb drive, is that important to have it for this?
I'm sorry?
You stuck your thumb drive in, was it important to have it with this syncing? When you were showing us this sync, you grabbed your thumb drive to stick in your machine.
Well, the thumb drive had the key on it. I couldn't memorize that.
Why not?
Well, I'm stupid.
Here, I thought you did.
So I don't think it's gonna, I have a feeling we're not gonna get there tonight.
We're gonna leave it on until
Well, I don't think it's gonna go.
unless you have any other questions.
Why do you like Chrome better than Firefox or any of the others?
It's your choice.
Chrome's a lot faster.
Chrome is not measurably faster. And you can verify that with some of the magazines and websites that measure things. They can't tell the difference. It depends on the website you're visiting, the speed of your internet connection. The slowest part of the equation is your internet connection. So, use what works for you and what you like. But by having multiple ones on here, if I used Internet Explorer, couldn't get to a website, I could then try Chrome. If I got to it, then I would know that Internet Explorer is having a problem or that website doesn't work with Internet Explorer. But without having a way to troubleshoot it, you'll never know what was wrong. Because a lot of people say, oh, I couldn't get there, there's something wrong with Internet Explorer. Well, there might be, or maybe it's the website. You don't know till you test it. If you have two browsers, then you can do it. Okay. Any last minute questions before we do the drawing?
Well, I don't know if there's any.
Any Q&A? Mary's here, there should be.
All right, before we, thanks Dale for the demonstration. All right, if there's no Q&A, I will proceed for our drawing. None? You sure, Mary? You have none? All right, we got two books. One is Microsoft OneNote for 2010. You have a full suite of Microsoft Office. You should have a OneNote feature, so you've got a book here. And the other one, what is this?
WordPress.
WordPress.
Blog.
It's a blog.
WordPress is a blogging site, right?
All right. So we got these two books. So you got your ticket out, ready to go? All right. 4 471-869. 471-869.
Where's my ticket?
Which one? You,
Oh, the Microsoft.
Microsoft.
OneNote.
OneNote.
Uno note.
All right.
How to use that, tell me what it's all about. I see that on my computer all the time, I don't know what it's for.
Well, if you have a full office suite.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how to use it either, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Second ticket is 471-871.
871?
Yep, 871. Oh, Willie and Mary.
Mary, you always win.
Oh, sure.
All right.
And
There's
so
one more.
so I'm gonna go do a blog?
No.
You might
Read
do,
the book.
you might do a blog.
Okay, before we leave, there is a special presentation I'm gonna give.
Joe's gonna give a special presentation.
No, you.
Me?
You. Dale? Over here, Dale. Well, you know, as Dale worked so hard, as you know, our presentation, he always come setting it up and to give, help out members here, and also teaching classes. And that's why we got our rooms free here, all the time here at the center. Because of Micro, a couple of months, the board and the board, I decided to give you a certificate of appreciation.
Oh, very much.
But,
It's not signed.
oh, well, I signed it now. You got a pen?
Oh, Pat stole it.
You may have it back.
Oh, well, I sign after that. But, you know, we like to have a dinner on us, maybe a drink. So, we're gonna give you, go to Chili's or Mexico and Grill, Mastrianos for $25. All right? But you know, you're a computer geek and it's like everybody else here.
All right, stop, gotta stop sometime.
You have to get something for computer stuff, so get
Amazon, oh.
$25.
I better not let my wife see this, she got a Kindle for Christmas.
Oh, that's even worse. So,
But so far, she hasn't bought any books, I've just put a bunch of free books.
that's in the books right there.
I put free books on there for her, and she's been reading the complete works of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh. So again, thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. I have to sign this too. I forgot I had to do something. Thank you.
Yeah, here you go, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
Yeah, now give me the pen, I can sign it here.
Wow. Press the power button again to power off, I've been doing it. Oh, there, finally, it turned off.
All right.
Well, Market has a cool down.
There's a cool down
It's
feature.
doing a cool down right now.
So,